All right, guys, welcome to Doc Talk. We have Michael Boothby, MD, joining us again. It's been a while. It's good to hear from you and see you again, Doc. How you doing?
Well, super. I'm having a great day. We're getting some rain here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which we're loving. It's a little much, I guess. When it rains, it pours. Actually works today because it's pouring, but we'll take the rain however we can get it.
Well, we definitely needed the rain here in Dallas, but that other part you said, when it rains, it pours. That's kind of what's happening with the Cowboys wide receiver position. Earlier in the offseason, we talked about Michael Gallup, and let's just go ahead and pick it up with Michael Gallup. We kind of briefly talked about it
Sure.
before we started going here. So Michael Gallup got his surgery in February, and you had said here it would be about that 9 to 12 month is usually how it goes for ACLs. And it came out last week that Gallup started running, and there was a video of Gallup running. It didn't look the smoothest, but again, he's still recovering, and he came out and ruled himself out for week 1. Now that you know he ruled himself out, Doc, and I don't know if you said you didn't see the video, but he
Right.
knows that he's not going to be ready. Are we still on that same time period of about 8 to 12 months, or not 12 months, but 8 to 9 months of being fully recovered before he gets back to football operation?
Yeah, I think that's really the best bet here. And there's just so many factors that go into ACL recovery in terms of time and letting the graft that is used as his new ACL mature. And it can be anywhere from 7, 8, 9 months, but it's really you described the video to me of the running being kind of a little bit not as smooth as you might expect, and that is very standard when we get people back to high level athletics. They've got to go through this process of mechanically learning to run and starting to run, but it doesn't look great to start with. It doesn't look normal, and we're asking them to go back to a high level athletic position, and there's got to be a certain level of smoothness to it, or they become a target out there, and then we're further behind than where we started. So I think that he's right on target time wise with that early February surgery date. They're obviously going to be watching him carefully and advancing him as quickly as possible, but also making sure that it's safe for him, and making sure that when he does come back, he's going to be on the field for a long period of time and not a short
Yeah.
stint and then back off again.
Now, as fans, Doc, when we get a player back from injury, we're like, hey, all right, let's go. We want you in there 100%. Give him all the balls, give him all the catches, and hopefully he's producing at a high level. But from a doctor's standpoint, when you've dealt with a lot of athletes and injuries like this, is it realistic to expect these guys to come back the same as they were immediately? Or are we talking about a few more weeks to kind of get their feet up under them?
Yeah, there's an intermediary time frame where yes, they're able to play, but they're not able to play 100% of what we saw before, and they have to work into that gameplay. There's a difference between being able to start to practice and then being able to practice and then being able to play some with limited touches per se in games, and then finally being hopefully back 100%. So again, that's a progression. I'm with you. As a fan, you're like, man, he's cleared,
Yeah.
and that cleared button is either on or off, right? And you would think that once you're cleared, you're 100%. But in reality, that's just not how it works. Even with the professional guys who get all of the everyday, training and workout and the best of the best, they're just not a light switch. It's going to take a work-in period playing to get him back to what we're expecting to see.
Now, we talked about earlier when raining and pouring, and again, I said the wide receiver position's been hit with a few of these injuries. James Washington is another one. The first day of practice with pads on, he fractures his foot, and he has what's called a Jones fracture. Now, not
Sure.
everyone is familiar with what a Jones fracture is. Can you kind of tell us what that
Right.
exactly means?
Yeah, so a Jones fracture has to do with a bone in the foot called the fifth metatarsal, and it's kind of on the outside portion of your foot. And there's actually two types of fifth metatarsal fractures. There's the good kind, which is the base of the fifth metatarsal fracture. And that's basically where a small portion of the bone basically just gets popped off. One of the ligaments in that area pulls a piece of the bone away. And those base of the fifth metatarsal fractures heal pretty rapidly and relatively short periods of time away from weight bearing and sports. The problem is that a Jones fracture, as categorized, has to do with the bone just a little bit further down the end of the bone. And the reason that we have a special name for Jones fractures is because the blood supply in that area of the bone is honestly not the best. It's what we call a watershed region. So instead of having a real high blood supply like a base of the fifth fracture, it has a more limited blood supply. And unfortunately, that slows down the healing process. And, this can be a 6, 8, 10 week type of injury treated non operatively. Oftentimes, if these don't get better, it sometimes even requires surgery to, put a screw across that area to hold it in place and augment or improve, hopefully, the blood supply to that area. So these can be a little tricky, especially in professional athletes who are big guys, quick, putting a lot of energy through their foot. And hence why you've heard of guys in the NFL having these sort of injuries. It's because they put so much pressure and energy into that area, and sometimes the bone just can't take it.
And he plays a position that he's going to have to push off of his foot every single time. I mean, all these guys do, but wide receivers clearly need their foot speed and their foot strength. And
No question.
Is it the position that he plays, Doc? Does that make the recovery have to last a little bit longer because you need to make sure that this is fully healed and you're ready to go back out there? Because if he pushes off of it, you can't have that pain, right?
Yeah, and I also think that other things that they may try to speed up the return to field time in terms of orthotics or stiffeners in his shoe to try and shield pressure from that area aren't going to be as successful in a wideout versus a lineman or somebody who puts a fair amount of pressure across the foot but is not a skill player in that sense of the word in terms of agility and really being quick and
Right.
the change of direction is just huge. So if he's still having pain or still worried about that foot, these guys are all so good that it's that just fraction period of time that makes the difference, and he may not have that for a little bit.
Hey, Doc, can you tell them if you do have an injury and you are an athlete, where they can come and find you and the good things you guys do over there?
Absolutely. We're at the Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Institute here in Fort Worth, and our number is 817-529-1900. Would love to see you guys. We also have offices in Mansfield and Decatur. So any of Cowboys Nation out there have their own, nicks and bumps that need to get looked at, we're happy to help them out.
Indeed. That is Dr. Boothby. This is Doc Talk. Thank you, Cowboys Nation, for joining us, and thank you, Doc.
Take care, man. Have a great day, okay? Stay dry.